Hello, welcome to Pop Along RC, the RC car channel dedicated to RC car racing, and today it's finally time to take the Tamiya MB01 and get it on the track and see how it performs. So as you can see in front of me here, I have got a number of Tamiyas which I need to get ready for racing because we've had an amazing summer, but it is time to get ourselves back indoors and back to our carpet racing. Earlier on this summer, I picked up the MB01. This is the newest offering from Tamiya in terms of M Chassis racing. So how's it going to compare to some of the other M chassis already made by Tamiya, such as the M03, which is one of our favourites. That's what I've got over here. This is the M03 chassis. Quite hard to get hold of these days because they no longer sell those new, but you can get hold of the M05, which is a car that I'm hoping to get on the channel very, very soon. Then there's also the M07, which is the racier version of the front wheel drive Mini. Now, this is the Fit R-Bath, which I have set up in front wheel drive. I've also put some oil-filled shocks on this car, so it is now ready to take racing. So let's see how it gets on. So, what can I say about this car? Aesthetically, this shell looks absolutely amazing. Absolutely love the detailing and the exhausts and the engine hanging out the back of the car. To look at, fantastic. I can't knock it at all. But let's get underneath the shell and see what else there is to talk about. So we're going to take that aside for now. So I've made a few little alterations to this car today at the track because it needed it, basically. Straight out the box, it didn't perform particularly well, mainly because of the amount of slop that you get in this car. So I don't know whether you can, that's coming out on the camera, but you can see there just how much slop there is in the front, and in fact the rear of the car is really, really loose, which, do you know what, for messing around on the roads and in the street, perfect. It's got a little bit of give, so you're a lot less likely to damage any of the parts. You're more likely to just pop them out. But for racing, when you need a little bit more precision, I just found that it was a little bit sloppy. Now, I did take the R-Bath shell out for practice, and I ran this car as it is meant to be, as a Fiat R-Bath. However, when it came to actual racing, I opted for the mini shell that I've painted up because I didn't want to break this shell. It's too nice, and with the boot exposed the way it is, I can imagine one little hit and that would be game over for the shell. So I popped on the mini shell, which I got from L&L Models, and I chose to race that. So as you can see here with the footage, once the tyres have actually warmed up, the car was gripping really well. I was able to hold pretty good lines around the track, but gearing wise, it wasn't quite fast enough. It just could not keep with the other cars on the track. So I was struggling a little bit for top end speed. Also, wasn't really able to carry as much speed as I would like through the turns. But you know what? For a straight out of the box car, it handled great, and I'm really happy with the feel of the car. It was like running my M03. Now, in an ideal world, this would be a car that I would recommend to a beginner getting into racing, fancies something a little bit different and wants to play in the M Chassis racing. However, it's not that. then there's a few reasons why I wouldn't recommend this car for that purpose. Now, the first thing is the amount of slop, which we've already sort of talked about. Loads of slop in the front end and the rear end. On the day, I tried to do a few things to sort of get rid of some of the slop. So the rear wheels were really loose and flapping around, so I added a little O-ring just to take some of the slop out of the wheels. Not sure, ideally I would have used shims to do that, but unfortunately I didn't have any, so I had to just use whatever I had available to me, and that is the option that I came up with. I also, as the motor was getting as hot as it was, I had to add a fan. Again, I didn't have what I needed to attach it to the car properly, so I cable tied it onto the side, but you know what, it kept the motor a little bit cooler, so that was again another little job well done. So the main issue with this car and why I would not recommend it as a beginner car, and it comes down to how sensitive the car is to touch. Now, you only actually had to brush the side of the track for this car to pop something off and be rendered useless. I lost count as to how many times these lower suspension arms popped out today. It was pretty much every run I went out. If I touched the side, they just popped straight out. The other thing that was happening as well is the cups on here were popping out as well. So that is the main thing that really disappointed me with the car. The handling, I think with a little bit of shimming, a little bit of patience, we can get this car handling really well. However, the design flaw, as far as I'm concerned, is if you look at this, I'm not really pushing on these very hard, but if you were to just tap the side, these just pop out, and then you've lost a dog bone and your wheels flapping around. So that for me is the biggest issue I have with this car. It was just, yeah, every single lap. I don't know whether there is damage done to this lower arm which is causing it to pop out, but yeah, it's just way too sensitive, and it literally just pushes straight back in again. It's no, because that side's doing exactly the same. I did wonder. No, it is literally that sensitive. So for a basher around the streets, just messing around out the front of the house, that's great, because what will happen is you'll crash and hit something and the front will just pop out, and then all you have to do is pop it back in again. However, if you're racing and you clip the side, that pops out, that is your race over and done with, game over. So unless I can work out a fix of how I can stop that happening, I can't race this car. It's just, it's too delicate. I mean, I did let a couple of people run the car. Luke, who recently got back into racing, he is absolutely loving his racing. I let him have a go, and driving down the straight, obviously because there's so much play in the front, it doesn't drive in a complete straight line. It was snaking a little bit. He just glanced the side barrier and it popped off, and it was, yeah, game over for him. So the mini class at this club is actually quite open and quite fun. So obviously these are two-wheel drive M chassis cars. So I was up against, there was a Carton, there was an Express Fronty, there was several M05s, there was even a Mardave Mini. The fastest car on the day was actually an M05. So I think that is the car that I need to be getting hold of, especially that the M05 is now a legal car for the Iconic Cup, and that is a competition I definitely want to get involved with next year. So I'm thinking M05 for the Iconic Cup. This car here, unfortunately, I think it's not going to be much more than a shelf queen. The question is though, do I stick it on my shelf, or do I clean it up, tidy it up, pop this amazingly awesome R-Bath shell back on it, and then send it to Rochester RC so they can put it on one of their shelves as a nice little display car? Do you know what? I'm up for doing that. I don't mind either way. It's a shame that it's just going to sit on my shelf. So if there's someone else out there that can enjoy this car, I need to work out what else I can do with it. Racing, I don't think is going to be the option. I think performance-wise, as I say, I can get more out of it. Performance-wise, it is just that sort of stability issue which concerns me. So the MB-01, a fantastic little car, but not a racer. Until the next time, see you soon.